Hey everybody, this is Carl Rectanis. Welcome to the 2018 school year. This is our Edtech work. These are data-driven reports, analyses, and consultations for decision makers. We work with schools, districts, states, and their partners to help make better decisions around their Edtech. Connect both Danny and I will reveal the full Edtech Top 40 for the 17-18 school year. We're going to talk a little bit about how the information was gathered and what that Edtech Top 40 is and what it is not. Trends in those findings, obviously the tools themselves, and also how to go deeper and get more engaged with this work for your own organization. We're excited to join us today. While many of us are to introduce ourselves just a moment before we get into more interactive portions of the webinar. My name is Carl Rectanis. I'm the CEO. We're a research-driven and we're founded with equity, narrowing the digital. We're excited to have today's webinar, especially afternoon. So much interest in this topic that we actually had to split it into two webinars because there were so many attendees. This particular version is primarily who are product providers, foundations, other suppliers of those tools. We had a separate webinar for schools, districts, states, and organizations directly engaging with the learning experience. But this one's primarily for partners. So we're going to take a little bit of that tinge. If we did record both, and we want to be both intellectually honest and transparent about our work. That's part of what we do. So, but all of that is to help both educators and their partners make results matter. Because we know that when results matter, everything changes. When we do and the focus of those decisions, policies change, practices change, purchasing, etc. So, introduce a friend and colleague, Dan Hope. He is fantastic. He's an applied psychometrician, an industrial and organizational psychologist who has led education evaluation, developed some of the most practical and rigorous EdTech evaluation available, leads our analytics. So Danny, thanks for doing today.
Carl, as always, great to be with you. And I did record those kind words you said. I'm excited to be here with you. Like you, super excited to have other folks join. As much as we love doing these analyses, ultimately these insights we want to produce for other smart folks out there.
That's right. Intellectually honest, driven to expand equitable access, and ultimately that means streamlining the information and insights that can help both educators and their partners do what's best for students. So I'd love to get started, but let's do something interactive with everybody who's joined. So for participants, based on the insights and data during the by over 300 different organizations, that is US-based with over 1,000 students. Got a question for you. How many EdTech tools do you believe are accessed every month in each of these organizations? So you should have visibility to a quick poll there. Go ahead and put in your guesses. We've activated that poll. So across US school districts, in each of those school districts, how many EdTech tools or access every month. We're going to give folks about 20 seconds to really consider what that number should be. Choose one option, etc. And we'll reveal your guesses in just a moment. Let's have awkward silence so you can think. Good. Tell me the truth. Are you hearing the Jeopardy music in your mind right now?
That happens all too commonly. I wake up to that. And I go to bed to that.
Awesome. All right. Well, it makes me think of the Alex Trebek Saturday Night Live video. But let's reveal every answer. Stand what guesses folks have had.
It's interesting to see that we have we have folks weighing in at different levels, with the majority around the 51 to 20 on average.
Yeah, that's cool. Super interesting. Before we reveal, I want to mention a comment that there may be a few previous, so we'll make sure to get them the recording if there are folks on the other. Thank you for mentioning it. So, what does the data tell us? How many products accessed every month by U.S. school districts? 548 called it, but that is a big number, Danny.
That's a big number. So school districts are accessing over 500 Edtech products every month. When we first discovered this number, when the data revealed the total, we were both shocked, but at the same time, we weren't shocked. When we thought about it, and we thought about conversations we've been having with schools and districts across the country, we thought about what they often refer to their Edtech context as the Wild West.
Yeah, that's true. And of course, Edtech has exploded in its growth and the different number of products. But both as an educator or as a partner, 548 products in every district with over 1,000 students. I mean, what does that mean for not only for improving implementations, for vetting for student data privacy? Very difficult. It gives us a sense of how complicated that is, and that's why we created Learn Platform is a comprehensive Edtech management and rapid cycle evaluation system. This software as a service tool is used across schools, districts, states, higher education, and their partners to organize, streamline, and rapidly analyze the impact across their Edtech. This is really how a lot of the insights and information is gathered and garnered for a lot of these studies. We'll go a little, but since most of the joining today are product providers and others, I want to provide just one example of what that means. Right? So for example, Connecticut, the Connecticut Software Data Hub is a one-stop clearinghouse for any product provider to be approved to comply with student data privacy requirements in Connecticut, instead of having to go through a process consistently with every single different organization and school district in the state. That is powered by Learn Platform, which saves both the state, the local districts, and product companies millions of dollars collectively across all the products, and thousands of hours, not only in legal bills but in headaches, and streamlines procurement. So organizations can, when we streamline those tools, it actually creates better engagement between educators and their partners. Member associations power their efforts using Learn Platform and white label versions of our tool to streamline their product vetting, to streamline procurement, and to gain insights from over 100,000 different educators And finally, and probably most importantly, Danny, your team and the technology and Learn platform equips them to rapidly analyze and understand in which situations their practices and are getting the most impact on student achievement. You know, many of you will probably have seen, for example, ISTE's announcements around Edtech Advisor, or you may be signatories of the Project Unicorn interoperability pledge. We're proud to partner with them and glad that Learn platform can help power some of these streamlined innovations to help schools, districts, states, and their partners like providers and investors and funders to make EdTech results matter. That's not all we're joined here today to talk about. Danny, why don't we get to it? What is the EdTech Top 40? And tell us, about the sample size and what the study represents.
Yep, a lot of exciting work that Carl just mentioned with a lot of exciting partners that brought on some very valuable and powerful information and insights to market. But today, like Carl said, we're here to talk about the EdTech Top 40. So let's first discuss basically hundreds of education organizations have run analyses on billions of data points across thousands of products. Think about that. With the EdTech Top 40, we reveal the products that were most accessed in the 2017-2018 school year by students and educators. And this reveal, and the ability for us to do this reveal, again, is powered by those analyses on over billions of data points. Thus, the EdTech Top 40 represents the breadth of tools accessed based on real-time activity across school, district, U.S. However, that breadth is just one piece of the puzzle. To supplement this breadth with an examination of depth, so in other words, to go deeper, we encourage you to check out our rapid cycle evaluation engine called Impact, where schools and districts can examine different types of EdTech usage, different levels and layers of usage, and then examine whether that usage actually relates to important educational outcomes. But as Carl mentioned earlier, the first step is to figure out what's going on, what's being used, how much are different products being used, because in order to understand what works, you first have to understand what folks are using. So lastly, I just want to point out that this study leverages analyses through Learn platform's Google Chrome extension. We found this to account for approximately 85% of web traffic, regardless of the operating system. So we can conclude rather confidently that these results are indeed representative of EdTech access across the education landscape.
That's really important. We always get questions about where are the insights, and those are very important to understand the sample data and what this represents. So a couple billion data points, a couple thousand different EdTech products being accessed across hundreds of organizations. One other thing that I'll mention that always comes up as a question is all of Learn platform's tools are compliant with federal and state student data privacy and other regulations. So we're not talking about PII here. We're talking about getting visibility and understanding insights compliant with student data privacy requirements. So can you tell us what it isn't, Danny?
Indeed, and thank you for mentioning that, because privacy and security is of utmost concern. So what it is, you now know. So let's quickly talk about what the Top 40 is not. First of all, the EdTech Top 40 is not an evaluation of impact or product efficacy. The amount of time the student or educator accesses given products is not necessarily an indicator of how effective they are at improving outcomes. But one more mention is that what we discussed previously is to go deeper and start to examine that product efficacy on platforms impact functionality. Second, the EdTech Top 40 is not influenced by any type of advertising or paid sponsorship. No one can pay to be on the list or move their ranking around, and it's absolutely not influenced by any type of financial transaction. And lastly, just to rub this in a little bit more, is to make sure everyone realizes that's not a comprehensive analysis of breadth, type, or level of usage for learning outcomes or other goals. It is strict access, but we encourage you to go deeper because that's exactly the types of insights we're providing.
Yeah, that's we literally could not say it, make it more clear, right? That breadth and depth are important. The Edtech Top 40 is a specific look at breadth, but the ability to go deeper into those access points and what it means for instructional, operational, and budget decisions are really important. So, as we see across the entire EdTech landscape with more than 5 products in the Learn Platform product library. It's the most comprehensive in the country. I mean, that's massive. We're adding to it all the time because schools, districts, product providers, have new products or are starting to use new things. We tag them. We have insights and feedback from educators. We can slice and dice that in different ways. But you and the team have really bucketed all the tools into one of 6 different areas, right? And maybe you could tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so we continuously work with educators, researchers, to classify, tag those thousands of products that Carl just mentioned. Accordingly, our team placed each product from the top 40 into one of 6 categories. And these 6 categories are what you see in front of you now. So we have assessment, content-related products. We have products that focus on reference. We have the operational. And then lastly, we have learning management systems and the social network. And again, companies may have multiple products. We basically take each product and classify it based on its primary utility.
It's so interesting to think about, if I think about a school district, which of these 6 do I think we would be accessing the most, or, how many tools would we have in each of these categories?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have that on the next slide, Carl. I feel like you may have known. But as we move into that next slide, it would be great for folks on the line to just give some thought, a quick thought to how much you think each of these categories will be represented in the top 40. So think about, your average district. Think about which products they're using, and then try and imagine what the breakdown would look like across these 6 categories. And then we'll reveal that for you here in a second.
I'm hearing the Alex Trebek music again.
Hard to get out.
All right. Final answer?
All right. Let's reveal it. So, does this align with your thinking? I'm curious to know. Looking only at the top 40 access EdTech products, this pie chart provides the breakdown of where those 40 products fall across these 6 categories. First thing I note is that you have 75% of those products, so 3/4 of the tools are split across 3 groups, and that's reference, content, and operational. It's also noteworthy to realize that looking back at the last round, so last year's top 40 compared to this year's top 40, there's great consistency in the different percentages across these 6 categories. Not a whole lot of shifting going around. The only real switch in rank ordering from 2017 to 2018 was that LMS and social network switched spots, with social being the smallest in 2017. But again, the shift was small, just a few percentage points.
Yeah, that's it's really super interesting, and I know as we dig into the top 40, the way your team has analyzed this will be interesting to see not only the number of users or the percentage of users using different tools, but you can actually get some visibility into how engaging or what levels of use is happening across those tools too. So we have seen a lot of contraction, for example, in the learning management system market. So that there being fewer tools, it may also represent, for example, more use than the percentage represents.
Indeed. And Carl, that's a good segue. Should we?
Yeah, drum roll.
Should we move into the EdTech Top 40? Give people what they want?
Let's do it. the Edtech Top 40, you can see here the first 20 of the Edtech Top 40. Danny, I hope you'll give us a little bit of a description, but I will mention to everybody who's on the call that, again, we will share after the webinar a PDF infographic with the details from this webinar, including the full Edtech Top 40. You'll be able to click into more details about each of these products in the Learn Platform product library as well. But tell us what we're looking at.
Yep, and that's 20 out of the top 40. We'll reveal the next 20 here in a moment in the next slide. But from left to right, you look at the columns. From left to right, you'll see first you have the rank order. So you have, this 1 through 20 on the ranking. Then you have the actual product, and then the category within which that product sits. Beyond that, you have 2 final columns. Now, the 4th column is the ranking. So importantly, the ranking is by the column labeled % users. And this actually represents the percentage of users from the total user base who use the tool. For instance, just to give an example, nearly 90% of students and teachers use Google Docs, which came in as the first ranking there. The final column, labeled % usage, represents the percentage of total usage events accounted for by the given tool. So it's worth noting the juxtaposition there between % users and the % usage. With those usage events were actually accounted for by that tool.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Certainly we have different levels of engagement. I mean, what jumps out at me is, for example, some of these formative assessment tools or LMSs may have increased engagement, especially when they're being used. Certainly for example, Google Docs is an operational tool that has had a pretty big impact.
Indeed. It's also interesting to note that, and kind of aligned with in the top 20. And then comparing users to usage, it's interesting to note that they are not perfectly correlated necessarily. So there's not a perfect relationship between users and usage. As Carl noted, it may be that there may be more users on a given product, but the actual total amount of usage could vary.
My grandma used to say it takes all kinds. Yeah. So in the top 20, you've got all 6. That is interesting. One of the things that I know we heard a lot previously, Danny, was, I worry about social networks. People are using technology only for, connecting with their friends. And clearly what we've seen across certainly web-based, devices is social networks are in the building, but those can be used for a number of different ways, and it's certainly by far not the only thing having engagement.
Indeed. We had one folks ask a question previously about LMS. They were surprised that it was only 5% of usage, but as you can see here, there are 2 LMSs in the top 10, and again, that goes to the extent to which the markets pulled together on that.
We had a question about sample size. Dr. Stanhope did mention earlier. So this is based on over 2 billion different data points across 300 different U.S.-based school districts during the 17-18 school year. It is across over 2,000 different Edtech tools that were accessed by them. And almost 500,000 teachers and students. All that sample size information is included in the infographic. Great question, but just want to reiterate that since it came up.
Yep, covered it perfectly.
Appreciate that vote of confidence. Shall we reveal the second half of the top 40?
Yeah, let's move into 21 through 40. So now we're revealing the second half of the top 40. It's worth noting quickly that the layout is the same as the previous slide, so go ahead and interpret each of those columns in the same way as you did previously. And again, when you receive the PDF of the top 40, you'll see all these products on the same list. Also worth noting that in that PDF, you'll have a link to where you can actually access different elements of the Edtech Top 40.
That's exactly right. In fact, we got a question while we were talking. Is there data points regarding free versus paid tools or resources? Great question. Learn Platform is the most comprehensive Edtech library in the world, with a bunch of different data points on free versus paid, pricing, OER, tags, subjects, etc. Our Edtech trends details do go into some levels on that, but when you get the infographic, you'll be able to access the product library and see more details about free versus paid, feedback from teachers and educators, etc. Danny, I don't think with this particular infographic we highlight any sort of or make any sort of analysis around how many of these are free versus paid tools or what have you.
We certainly have the capability of doing so, but no, you don't have access to that in that top 40 here.
Great, good to know. Thanks for that question. Any other things that you saw through this? I know as I look at the second half of the top 40, I noticed more reference and content tools. You start to see specific subject matter tools, that are clearly getting used in science, math, literacy, and operational tools as well.
Yep, you certainly see a slight uptick here of access to content-related tools. Another one I noted as well. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. That's fantastic. I want to, for schools, districts, and states, if you're interested in more information, you can certainly activate our Google Chrome extension. You can also activate it as an individual. Product providers can turn it on for themselves so that when you see and visit your own and other Edtech products on the web, you can have visibility to share feedback or get visibility into how others are viewing those tools. But I do we're going to have a chance in a moment to talk about how you can get more deeply involved within your own organization to take advantage of these Edtech trends and get details. But let's take a couple breaths and see if there are any additional questions before we get wrapped up. You can please use the question and answer, the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to be able to ask any questions. Both Danny and I have taught either college or K-12 level and believe in wait time. So we're going to give you a chance to actually type your question now. I see that a couple folks have raised their hands. I'm hoping that we're not having any technical difficulties. Just being sure to click where it says Q&A if you have any questions. We will keep going unless we get another question before we. There's a couple different ways that product providers, partners, and school districts can get engaged. We will certainly follow up with all of you to get you the PDF of the infographic, a link to the recording if you'd like to share. But I encourage any product providers and their partners to claim your product pages. This is a great free way to update over 100,000 educators about your tools and technologies. It is, again, freely available. Also, for those who do claim your page, we have partnered and launched something called Impact Ready for product companies who are committed to student data privacy, to interoperability, and to driving impact and sharing information with their partners in a way that is useful. That is a free survey. It takes about 10 minutes. So if you have a student data privacy policy, if you engage in interoperability, it is designed so that any product partner can be deemed impact ready, and the schools, districts, states, not only Connecticut, but across thousands of school districts will have visibility to those products. And in doing so, we do know that it will streamline the procurement process for those organizations, because we know that school districts need that information and can move forward more quickly, those that use our system. By claiming your page and being impact ready, you can also respond to RFIs and RFPs for free on our system. So thank you. I'm going to take a breath real quick before we stop. It does look like we got a couple questions here. When we looked at usage, how did you differentiate whether a product is being used for educational purposes, specifically thinking about use of social networks? Hey, great question. We appreciate it. There are certainly a number of ways, Danny, that we can use the data to understand more details about how and when tools are being used in and out of school time, length of time, and certainly through our impact technology, which was not a part of this study, but the ability to go much deeper on individual product usage. However, at this point, we aren't making any assumptions or clarifications if they were being used for educational purposes. I'll take, for example, Mark Baxter, who asked the question, asked this in the context of social networks, but for example, YouTube can be used both instructionally. I mean, I think I use YouTube the most for how-to videos when something breaks around my house, but it can also be used for fun cat videos. Within this study, were there any indications whether these tools are being accessed for educational or other purposes?
So as you mentioned, we can break it down in so many different ways, and we can see when the tools are being accessed during school hours or not during school hours, or in conjunction or in relation to other products being accessed. We can dig in deeper in all that, but I think the main thing to think about here is the kind of the directional accuracy of the data and the fact that they are representative of overall use and an initial inclination of what's being used and how much and by whom. As Carl mentioned, we can go much deeper and specify what types of usage these things are actually having, but that again is with a deeper dive into it through impact and other means.
I think, I think about 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, one of the questions for school districts was, almost, should we Edtech, right? Do we really want technology in schools? Aren't students just going to use it for social media and non-learning purposes? One thing I can see through this is the propensity, the sheer amount of use going into this operational and content and reference materials. What I see is clearly students are asking those questions that they used to have to memorize or look up, but it's not as if technology is only being used for social media.
Yep.
Great question. Thank you for that. We'll see. I think we've answered most of the questions that have been asked. We would love to engage more deeply with partners, foundations, referenceable material, media, and certainly schools and districts. Our intention and goal is to expand equitable access for all students to the technologies, tools, and teaching that works best for them. And like we said, how can you know if what you're using is working if you don't know what you're using to start? So I want to thank everybody for joining us. Dr. Stanhope, thank you and your team. for sharing this information.
Yep, and we all, I assume, have the same aim to improve student outcomes and make results matter. So we're super excited to run these analyses and share these results, and we hope you all stay engaged with us to help us to continue to generate and disseminate these valuable insights.
If you want to go deeper, just email us at info@learnplatform.com or go to learnplatform.com. We'll certainly be following up with the recording and the PDF. Thanks for joining today. Have a great day.